Hello, this video will explain how we have approached the EAL in ITE modules from a pedagogical perspective. It will look at the pedagogy of the activities and materials that we have created for before the session, during the session, and after the session. Let's start with before the session. The activities and materials we have included as part of the before session stage include opportunities for learning. The activities prepare student teachers for what they will be doing during the live session. So if you decide to include these activities, it's important to highlight to the student teachers that they are expected to complete them in advance of the session. So this is an example of a pre-reading activity. It's part of Module 1, Stage 4, that looks at EAL and attainment and what variation factors impact attainment of pupils with English as an additional language. So the pre-reading activity for this stage is a read and take notes task. Student teachers will be reading vignettes and will make notes on the challenges and opportunities facing each of the learners in the vignette, using prompts to help direct their ideas. But there is also an example for the first vignette and a note at the bottom in green reminding student teachers that they will be sharing their ideas with other trainees during the session. Looking at the yellow highlight, this is a secondary activity, yet a primary version is also available. So then this is an example of one of the vignettes. On the left, you have a description of a learner, and on the right, you've got the prompts to help trainees think about parts of that vignette. For example, in this case, the experiences of the learner before arriving in the UK, the role of the school, the impact of the family, and their position in the community. Here are some more examples of vignettes and some more examples of thinking prompts, which allow the student teachers to reflect. After reading the vignettes and thinking about the prompts, the last part of the activity is for student teachers to use their notes in order to complete the sections on opportunities and challenges that they will be sharing during their session. So let's now look at the during the session stage. We have tried to use as much as possible a framework for designing our modules, which we have loosely adapted from Alderez and Waddell's framework. The caveat here is that the 3-hour sessions in modules 1 and 2 allow us to incorporate this framework more often and more thoroughly than the 1-hour options. So again, we highly recommend using those 3-hour sessions. This approach or framework includes 4 stages. Number 1, begin with experience. Number 2, get out. Number 3, put in. And number 4, end with experience. Let's explore each one of these in turn. Beginning with experience is about helping the student teachers to relate the topic of a particular stage in the session to their own experiences, either as learners or participants in the community where they live, or as a student teacher in their placement school. The second stage is called Get Out, and this is about supporting student teachers to articulate what they know or they think already about the topic in question, and to construct their own concepts and ideas linked to what they already know. Stage 3, Put In, is where we present the new content, and this is where we also support student teachers to make personal and meaningful sense of that input. And finally, end with experience activities allow student teachers to link the learning in the session with their own practice. So they will be given opportunities to apply or implement what they have learned, and also to consider practical implications for their classrooms in their placement schools. So here's an example of the framework being used in the design process of Module 2. You will see that the module starts with begin with experience activities. These are part of stage 1 of the session called Why is it important to focus on language? And in these particular examples, the student teachers are reminded that they may be very well familiar with how language is used in schools, including academic language, and they will be asked to recall the nature of that language from their own experience or from experiences they see in their placements. We can see examples of the Get Out stage in the next section of the course on how language is used for learning in the classroom. Here, student teachers are asked to analyze and reflect upon samples of pupil language found in the classroom, and then listen to what other group members share. As they actively listen to each other, they begin to co-construct new concepts and learning with their peers. Note that so far there is very little input from the tutor or from materials. As we get more heavily involved in the put-in stage, when we move to the third section of the course, identifying language demands and instructional supports, student teachers are provided handouts that explain how language works within the different genres and levels of text, and are provided with lots of examples of techniques that they can use to support language development for their learners who use EAL. Student teachers still engage in activities, but these are designed to support the learning of new material rather than from their own reflections and experiences. And finally, the last stage, End with Experience, coincides with our last stage in the course, a framework for integrating content and language development. Here, student teachers are now asked to apply the framework and previous module learning to identify the language demands and instructional supports for teaching a brand new text to learners using EAL that they have not yet seen before. At this stage, we can start to get a sense of how well they have understood the material and how they are able to apply what they have learned in practice. So finally, let's focus on the materials and activities for after the session. Each module will include suggestions for an after-session activities that will help to consolidate learning and further apply what student teachers have learned. The activities will often include the use of materials and resources that were provided to them during the session. Here's an example of a post-session activity from Module 3, Stage 4, on how to carry out assessments for pupils who use EAL, and it suggests further reading on an EAL assessment framework. The framework provides a tool for assessing English language proficiency, along with support strategies to use with learners at different levels of English proficiency. The example here is the task that suggests ways in which student teachers can put into practice then what they have learned from the course after the session using course materials and resources. Finally, the following features have also been built into the design of the modules to ensure for effective learning. The materials have been designed using strategies such as dual coding, which combines verbal and visual instruction to reduce the burden on student teachers' thinking and to promote deeper and better learning. Also, the content in the slides has been carefully managed so that the amount of content is reduced. We've also included clear and considered instruction on techniques, worked examples, and models to support student teachers in developing effective approaches. The tasks require student teachers to draw upon and apply what they have learned, as I've mentioned before. And finally, the materials include ideas and suggestions for feedback to provide to student teachers, as well as space for self-monitoring, encouraging student teachers to pay specific attention to their actions and the effects of these actions. So we've reached the end of this video and the series of 3 videos that explain how to use the EAL in ITE modules. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope that you find using the modules really easy and useful.